Hello everyone, I'm back again for another update. Welcome to 2025. This is January 3rd. I did a couple modifications on this log bridge I was hoping would make it a little bit easier to cross, but yeah, that one spot in the middle where I got that T-shaped is very tricky to get over. The rest of it isn't bad. I put a couple boards over here to make it easier to step onto the log to get going on it. Then that piece sticking out is almost like a natural handrail, or you can brace yourself, but then that where it attaches to the main log is the trickiest part to get over. And that creek is pretty deep at that spot, and the last thing I want to do is fall in. But I did manage to get those boards screwed on without falling into the water, thankfully. As you can see, there is a dusting of snow. We had a snow squall move through here about 2 hours ago. So what I'm going to talk about today is the upcoming cold pattern in the eastern U.S. I know a couple of weeks ago I was ready to stick a fork in winter because it looked like the MJO was moving into phase 4/5/6 at once, all three warm phases. But convection developed in the phase 8 zone and now is dominating the MJO enough to bring a colder pattern to the eastern U.S. for now, at least for the next couple of weeks. But it's still evident that they are trying to manipulate the MJO. There is still convection in those three zones going on. In order to get a sustained pattern, cold pattern, that convection has to go away or at least diminish in those areas. As long as you got convection there, it's going to be a seesaw effect. Yeah, we might go into phase 8 pattern for a little while, but it's going to flip right back to warmth again once that convection naturally fades off. So the end of January into February may go back to warmth again, but it depends on how successful they are at manipulating the MJO and whether their efforts are starting to falter now that the phase 8 convection has overshadowed what they're trying to do in those three zones. They're still trying to keep the convection going in the phase 4, 5, and 6 zones, but it's not enough for now to offset the convection in the phase 8 zone. So maybe their efforts are starting to falter a bit. We shall see what February brings. We do have a winter storm heading this way in a couple days, but here it depends on the warm air aloft and how much of it makes it here. The forecasts vary widely between mainly freezing rain and 8 inches of snow or more. It'll be interesting to see how much warm air comes in aloft. It is definitely going to be cold enough at the surface. So we shall see on that. But this is going to bolster the snow totals for DC and end the snow drought there, very likely, for Washington, DC area. and Maryland and places like that it's gonna potentially bring them up to almost normal levels for the whole winter if they get a big enough snow out of this. Here, it's iffy we're going to get more than 3 inches. Again, because the problem is too much warm air from the Gulf coming up aloft. But that's still iffy. So I'm going to start heading back. I think I've pretty much done what I could with that for today. With that log bridge, it's too cold to risk being out there anymore. Temperatures are dropping right now as I speak. So is this the beginning of a turnaround? It could be. I know that eventually the MJO manipulation is going to backfire in a big way, and we're going to end up with a record cold, snowy winter at some point. And not only that, we're going to end up with a hurricane-free season at some point, I feel. The sun cycle 25 has perked back up at least for now. Sunspot count did go up above 200 again because we got a few areas in the northern hemisphere that came around, but right now again the southern hemisphere is still dominant in activity in the sun. And again, this could be just a temporary bump up because last month we were down below 100 for quite a bit of the time in sunspots. And we're back below 200. It did surge above 200 for a few days there, but we're back in between 150 and 200 now. Seems to be the consensus. So I'm going to start working my way out of here. Not too far from home, just probably 15-minute hike and I'm back. As you can see, the beavers have been helping me out. They cut away recently all of this. Yeah, they cut away all these bushes here recently. This whole section they've cut away, cleared it, making it easier for me to come back here to where this crossing is of the creek. And then this section is still flowing, and beavers, I believe, are maintaining that now. That whole section, beavers live, I suspect, live under there. So I'm going to cross this here. This is a trail I created. It is technically in Jefferson National Forest. And this gives me access to the wilderness area further back. If I can cross this creek, I got total access to all of this. This is all national forest and wilderness. So I'm trying to improve that, like I say, that log bridge to make it easier to cross it. But I still haven't solved the main problem of getting over that one spot. Not that it's impossible, it's just extreme care has to be exercised, and over that one spot. I almost lost my balance yesterday when I started putting some of the boards in. Thankfully I didn't. I also cut away a few little blowdowns with this saw. So yeah, I did say a few weeks ago that this winter was going to be a more normal winter, wasn't going to be as mild as the last several. Overall, I'm talking about. I mean, January is appearing to be going to be much colder than last year. For much of the U.S., eastern two-thirds. It does appear we're going to get the first significant winter storm in several years here locally. Of course, their excuse is going to be, well, Arctic amplification. Where a warmer Arctic forces cold air further south. That's an argument meant to keep the global warming hooks going, when it's pretty obvious that, as I've been saying, 2007 global warming turned to global cooling in that year because of the change in the activity on the sun. And yeah, we're in a solar max now. But it's still a little bit weaker than average cycle than what we've seen. And the 70 years I've talked about of high solar activity appear to be over. We're going into a different regime. But it's going to take a while for the oceans to catch up. They're still warm from all that solar activity. The oceans absorbed all that warmth. But what's speeding up the process is the manipulation of the MJO, manipulation of hurricanes. That's taking a lot of this stored up heat out of the water prematurely, I feel. And it's going to lead to a speeding up of the process of the oceans catching up to a lower solar activity, meaning that they're going to start to cool very soon, the oceans, if they're not already. And again, the Pacific has been cold and stormy. The North Pacific, a reason for all the waves on the west coast we've had is the amount of storminess out in the Pacific, and the cold air, Siberia, continues to flow to the North Pacific. And it will have a cooling effect on that area of the ocean. If it hasn't already, it will. Look at this, the beavers cut away. This whole area is a wetland that's created by a whole family of beavers. And this is a trail that I created. I'm on, follows Potts Creek for a little ways. And I gotta get my glove back on here. So my hand is getting ice cold. Nice view of Potts Creek there, and again the other side of the creek is all National Forest land, as well as this side here. And I'm getting my glove on here. Walking stick. I'm going to try to keep the video going until I get to the beaver pond. And again, I'm on my trail I created right from my house that takes me here. And the storm, Helene, took down a few trees over here. Look like sycamores. Well, I gotta turn around. I left my saw sitting there. I'm trying to figure out where I left this saw at. I see it. Yeah, so as it's looking, this cold pattern is going to continue till the end of the month. And it's an indication that the effect of the Tonga eruption is wearing off. As that did warm the planet, did increase water vapor in the upper atmosphere. A lot of that water vapor has come out of the upper atmosphere. So the effects of that eruption are diminishing. And it's been 3 years now since that eruption occurred. And that's how long it usually takes for an eruption to begin to wear off on its effects, usually around 3 years. Again, the MJO manipulation, I still feel is going on. But again, like with anything, it eventually backfires. It's like with the hurricanes. We had the barrel in the beginning of the season, and then that was it till almost the end of September last year. And that's the beginning of what I'm talking about. Eventually, this stuff's going to backfire because it takes heat out of that water prematurely. and removes heat from the Earth's budget prematurely before it should be removed. So it affects the heat balance of the Earth. And it has the opposite effect over time as to what they're trying to do. Like I say, New York City broke a string of 15 straight years of no snow on Christmas. They had an inch this year. And I also did research in New Year's weather in Denver, Colorado, and I averaged out 10 years, decade by decade, and the warmest decade on New Year's Day, averaging out, was the 30s. The coldest was the 70s. But the last few decades have been below average or near normal in temperatures there. And coming up to the Beaver Pond. And it's got a thin layer of ice on it. And the dam is right here, and my trail actually goes right over it, and there's another pond here. The trail basically follows the top of the dam created by the beavers. And then another thing is the beavers cut away this whole entire area, and it gives me easier access. This was all dense brush, and the beavers flattened this all out and cut all this trails into this whole area that I could walk on. I don't know if they're doing it for me or what, but I kind of wonder. But they have recently cut out lots of these bushes here and basically cleared this whole area recently. They cut out all of these bushes, and now I can have easy access through here. Here's one example. That was all very recently done. They created all kinds of trails. It's 10 times easier now for me to walk through here than it was a year or two ago. Yeah, they cut away all of this brush all through here recently. A lot of this is very recent. And this grass is, they flattened down all this grass and made it much easier on me. Again, I don't know if he did it to help me out or it was just coincidence. I can't say for sure, but I really do wonder. So that's going to be it for this video. I will be back soon.